What is everybody? Welcome back to the Optimal presented by FTN Network and FTN Daily. We're back again with some more MLB talking about today's slate. 5/16 is the date. We have an 11 game slate, I believe. Yeah, 11 gamer on a Monday, so pretty good size slate. We're going to run through some of the pitching options for today and then potentially talk about some of the stacks that we can get from maybe some of the bad pitchers here in terms of targeting them. So it is a bit of a weird slate for pitching. I'm looking at the FanDuel pricing right now, but it's also pretty weird over on DraftKings as well. We have a lot of guys, and I feel like the pricing for pitching has been pretty weird on both sites all year long. Yesterday I went on a little bit of a tangent on Twitter about the Tarek Skubal pricing on DraftKings, and he ended up finishing the game with 11 strikeouts as a 6K pitcher. And today we have a couple of weird prices in terms of guys being super expensive. On DraftKings, you have Miles Michaelis over at 9.8. Tyler Gonsolin is at 10.2. On FanDuel, Michaelis is 10.2 on FanDuel over there. Freddie Peralta is the most expensive DraftKings pitcher. I would say that makes a good amount of sense over there. You have John Gray, who's 9.4 on DraftKings, but 6.4 on FanDuel. So it's just like the pricing is just kind of all over the place, and there's not really a lot of consistency, and it's pretty uncommon from sport to sport. Like, for example, let's think of, golf. You're never going to see John Rahm at 11K on DraftKings and then be 8K on FanDuel. Or in football, you're never going to see, Cooper Cup 10K on DraftKings and then like 5K on FanDuel. I know the pricing, like the scale of the pricing changes a ton from site to site, but just in terms of one player being the most expensive option on one site and then like the 15th or whatever on the other, it doesn't happen really in any other sport, and it happens a ton with pitching this year. And it's kind of strange. Like, it doesn't really often happen with like a top end guy. Like, for example, Carlos Rodon's been up at the top of the pricing pretty much all year long. But I guess we'll see as the season goes on if that stuff stabilizes or whatever. But let's get into the favorite pitching options for me so far today. So I will say, let me update the projections real quick. But early on, Freddie Peralta, I think, is my top option, but it's not like it's going to be like he is going to be a clear-cut favorite. I do think that today is a day where you could potentially see yourself dropping down in price a little bit. Typically, over the course of the year so far, that hasn't been something I've been doing a ton of, especially over on FanDuel. You're only rostering one guy and at the pitcher position, and you don't need to necessarily punt a position like on DraftKings, where that SP2, sometimes you can really justify punting that SP2 option. It makes a lot of sense a lot of the time, right? Not really as much of the case here for the pitching options. So let's talk about that real quick. Freddie Peralta up at the top in terms of the projection. He's 9.7. Like I mentioned, the FanDuel price is a bit up there. Luis Severino, 8.1 in terms of the price, 34-point projection. Zach Logue has had some really appealing, maybe not appealing, maybe appealing is not the correct word. Enticing, I should say, starts so far this season. Obviously, he had the good start last time out against Detroit. He faced this Minnesota team 2 starts ago. He did give up 2 home runs, but he only gave up 2 earned runs. He struck out 5. So far, it does look like he's going to be a very fly ball heavy pitcher, which could get him in some trouble. But pretty good performance from him last time out, and the pitch depth, I guess, is pretty appealing. 97 pitches last time out and 90 in the start 2 times ago against Minnesota. So Logue is probably a guy who's projecting a little bit better than he actually is because of the fact that you only have 2 real starts under his belt, and one of them was very, very good. So I would take that projection there with a grain of salt. John Gray's projecting really well. John Gray's always a pitcher that I've liked from like a real life perspective, and I thought him getting out of Coors was going to really be something that was very good for his career and for his stats, right? So I guess we'll see how that continues to pan out. But last year still struggled with some power issues at times, which is strange because he does have a really strong ground ball rate. Last season, he had a 50% ground ball rate, and that number's been at 50% so far this year as well. He does give up a lot of hard contact. And this is not a good matchup by any means, but when you look at the strikeout upside of it, it's pretty appealing. There's a lot of strikeouts to be had in this lineup since the start of last season. Every single hitter in this lineup, except for Anthony Rendon, is striking out 24% of the time or more to right-handed pitching. So that's a pretty interesting spot. for John Gray, especially on FanDuel where he's super cheap. On DraftKings where he's more expensive, I don't know if I love it because again, it is still the Angels. Angels are playing as one of the best teams in the majors right now. So on DraftKings, probably shy away from it. But on FanDuel, if you are punting down there, I think that's a good option. You have Freddie Peralta and Luis Severino up top, and that's kind of where I think I'm going to be keying in on a lot of the time. Severino's in a very, very good matchup. I mentioned Tarek Skubal, how he had 11 strikeouts yesterday. That was against the Orioles. The Orioles are a very strikeout-heavy team. And, we know Luis Severino can rack up some strikeouts, right? Especially when you look at the course of his career. But even so far this season, he's striking out 25% of hitters. And also so far this season, once you get past the top 3 hitters, Mullins, Mancini, Santander, all of them in this projected lineup, of course, doing this at about 1, so we don't have the official lineup yet, but 22% strikeout rate for every hitter in the 4 spot and down on Baltimore. So lots of strikeouts to be had, and you actually have 4 hitters in this lineup striking out 28% of the time or more against righties. So there's a lot to be excited about here for Severino in terms of the matchup. And he's looked fine as well. He has struggled with some power against lefties. Another good thing, you're probably only going to see 3, maybe 4 lefties, depending on who they put behind the plate there in Baltimore. But Mullins, who's a big threat, Santander is very good as well. Maybe I shouldn't say very good. He's good. And then you have Odor, who has some power, but also strikes out a ton. So that kind of, I would say, balances out a little bit. But Severino, I think he's more so appealing because of the price. I don't think he's overly expensive. We did see him reach 97 pitches last time out in that start against Toronto where he struck out 8. So Severino and Freddie Peralta is likely where I look the most. And I mean, I do think that Severino is definitely the safer of the two because Freddie Peralta has to face the Braves in Milwaukee, which is a very hitter-friendly ballpark, so that's not ideal. But, yep, that is the pitcher breakdown for today. Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll see you guys next time for a more in-depth look at some stacking and some pitching breakdowns. But, as always, let's see some green screens here. We will see you guys next time. Good luck, everybody, and enjoy your Monday Night Baseball.